Okay, another witness for the state?
Your Honor, at this time, the state would like to proceed by way of playing a video. I believe that there is a stipulation from the defense and the state as to the foundation of these 911 videos.
Okay. You want to identify, is it marked with an exhibit number?
Your Honor, it is People's Exhibit Number 2, or State's Exhibit Number 2.
Okay.
And they're in two segments, but it's one full call.
Mr. Firehelm, any objection to State's Exhibit 2 coming into evidence?
No, we previously discussed it. That's fine.
Okay, 2 is admitted into evidence, and you intend to publish at this time?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Delaware County 911, what's the address of your emergency room?
Oh, this is Todd.
Hello?
Where
are you at?
I'm on the road. I'm out of breath.
Okay. What's going on, sir?
My wife, what the hell? She got a full pork sitting in the barn.
Okay.
She's not responsive. I'm just me and my son bringing it.
Okay, so your wife is in a barn. You said she's unresponsive?
No, she's bullducking what you call corn pork. I don't know if she tripped. I don't know. She was halfway out the door. I sent my son over to check on her.
Okay.
She's yelling at me, and I'm on the ride.
Okay.
She looks gone.
Okay. We'll get an ambulance for in just a second.
I'm headed there. I'm about to Oneida.
Okay, so you're headed to where? Okay, what's
The hospital. I just grabbed her and threw her in the truck. And my son pulled me.
Okay, you're headed to the hospital and she's in your vehicle?
Yes, my white truck.
Okay, just a second here. Is she
There's no pulse.
there's no pulse. Can you just get on this one for me? Just a second. I'm gonna have another dispatcher get on. I'm gonna ask you to pause. Can you pull over?
I can.
Okay. How about you pull over? Sir, what's your current location, and we'll get an ambulance headed your way.
Oneida.
Another dispatcher, get on. I'm going to ask you to pause. Can you pull over?
I can.
Okay. How about you pull over? Sir, what's your current location, and we'll get an ambulance headed your way.
Oneida. Brian called me new house. I can be right in Oneida, right? East of Oneida.
Oneida. Okay.
Did I do anything? She says, there's nothing.
Okay. What is your name, sir?
Todd Mullis.
And what are you driving?
White Chevy.
A white Chevy.
I can be closer.
A white Chevy truck.
Listen to you. No, I don't feel anything. Goddamn, she's there. Cover her up a little bit. She's got her fucking pants off. I gotta get her out of this shit. Do you feel anything?
25 Manchester.
Do you see anything? Feel anything?
28.5 Manchester.
Where's the other kids?
Got a suspect with his wife in the vehicle, unresponsive. They're coming to Oneida. I asked him to stop there. We've got the ambulance paged out. Can you head that way?
Can I get a little closer?
He said Oneida.
Can I go a little closer?
I've got an officer almost to where you're at.
Okay.
Okay?
I'll turn it off so they can get her.
Go ahead.
They can pull right in here. God.
What?
I'm just east of Oneida.
Okay, all right.
Wait, you feel anything? Oh. Amy. Amy.
Okay, so what happened that she's not conscious or breathing?
She fell on a fork. I took out a fork on her. It was an old fork sitting in somewhere, and then she was halfway out of the barn. Like she was calling to get out, and then Tristan yelled, and I ran over there, and she was laying there.
And pulled it out of her.
I couldn't get her out of the barn. The doors were narrow, and responding.
With the force of a tractor at this moment, when she's unresponsive. We have him pulled over alongside the road. He has.
Was this like a pitchfork?
One of them old corn forks.
Right. That's like a
curved
sidewalk
one.
fork?
Yeah, well, it's kind of got a curve on it. I don't know how that freaking happened. I'm sorry about my cursing.
Okay. So is she bleeding?
I can't tell. I just, when I seen it, she was face down.
Just pulled the pitchfork out of her.
How old
I
is
couldn't
she?
get out of the door.
How old is she?
What is she, 38?
Okay.
She's 38 or 39.
Okay.
She did not respond to me.
Okay.
Come on. My son.
Sir, do you feel comfortable doing CPR?
I can try. I'll try anything.
Okay.
I'll try anything. I have to get her. I guess she's laying on my son's lap.
Is she flat on the? Are you able to get her flat across maybe the seat?
Well, I think it's in the back of the truck. But she's laying on my son's lap.
Okay.
Oh my God. When I pushed on her, she got like foam in her mouth.
She's foaming from the mouth. I don't know how to get her laid flat.
She's.
You know what I mean? She's laying across her son's lap.
Oh, she's got a little blood, around her back.
Is he able to get on? Maybe he can get on the floor of the truck, and she can get. You can lay her across the seat, so we can get her flat.
Go, Tristan, get out, and we'll lay her on the. And we'll have to get her on the seat. Okay. Oh shit. Get out. Get out. We'll lean the seat back a little bit.
Where's the
Okay, she's very flat. I'm trying to hold on to the phone.
Right. Can you put it on? Can you put the phone on?
What do I do?
Okay.
Lay her flat, as flat as I can.
As flat as you can. All of your hands on her breastbone in the center of her chest, right between her nipples.
Okay.
And place your other hand on top of that hand.
Okay.
Okay. Pump the chest hard and fast, at least twice per second, 2 inches deep. Let the chest come up all the way up between pumps, and we're going to do this until they get there and can assist. Okay.
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 Twice per second. Right. Yep. 1, 2. 1, 2. My son is right here. It's private.
Now.
He's coming. New house building just
The deputies are almost there.
There's one here.
Okay. Keep doing the compressions until they can help and take over, okay? Keep going, you're doing fine.
Okay.
Keep going.
Come on, respond. She's cold. Come on. Come on. Good. Come on. Oh, shit. Going on the ground.
Is the officer there with you, sir?
Yeah, he's here.
Okay,
It's, what is it, Luke?
that's fine. Do you want me to stay on the line with you, or are you okay?
No, I can't talk on the phone.
Okay, all right.
My son's right here. I gotta.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Okay, is the state ready with a witness?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
State would call Luke Thompson.
Okay. Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead and have a seat there. State your name and spell it for the record, please.
Deputy Luke Thompson, L-U-K-E-T-H-O-M-S-E-N.
Go ahead, counsel.
Luke, what is your occupation?
Deputy Sheriff with the Delaware County Sheriff's Department.
How long have you been a sheriff's deputy with Delaware County?
Just over 15 years.
Prior to Delaware County, do you have any other law enforcement experience?
Yeah, I worked for Dyersville, Iowa for about 3.5 years.
Are you certified in law enforcement?
Yes,
Did you go to the Law Enforcement Academy?
yes.
What are your present duties with the Delaware County Sheriff's Department?
I'm a regular road deputy.
Were you on duty as a regular road deputy for the Delaware County Sheriff's Department on November 10th of 2018?
Yes,
Do you know what shift you were working that day?
8 in the morning till 6 p.m.
Was there anyone else riding with you that day?
No,
At some point during your shift, did you receive a dispatch concerning the events we are here for today?
yes.
Do you recall about what time that was?
12:05.
Do you recall what the nature of the dispatch was?
It came across to me as some type of farming accident, is what I thought.
Did you respond to it?
Yes.
And to where did you respond?
To 2337 170th Street.
And approximately how long did it take you to get there?
Just a few minutes.
When you first arrived at that scene, what did you see?
I saw a young man, looked like he had blood on his coat, flagging me down as I pulled up.
Right. Were there other people there?
Yes.
Who else was there?
Todd Mullis was there. And then there was a female in the passenger seat of the pickup that was unresponsive.
And so what did you do?
I got out and I told Todd, I think who was still on the phone, can you help me get her out of the car where we can work on her on the ground a little bit better? So I grabbed her upper half and he grabbed her lower half and we put her on the ground and I started doing chest compressions.
And how long before others arrived to assist?
2 or 3 minutes maybe.
While all of this was going on, did you have any opportunity to speak with the defendant?
Yes.
What information were you trying to get from him?
I was asking him questions about what had happened.
And what did he tell you?
He told me he was not sure. He found her in the shed away from where he was at. And that she had a corn rake in her back.
How would you describe Amy's condition while you were there at that scene?
She was unresponsive and not breathing, no pulse. She had some bruising on her jaw, another bruise on her right arm, I believe, and then she had quite a bit of blood on her clothes.
Was she able to communicate at all?
No,
Was she responsive at all?
no.
Were you able to observe what the defendant and his son Tristan were doing while Amy was being worked on?
Not a whole lot. No, I was concerned with her more than anything at the time.
Once others came, were you relieved of chest compressions?
Yes.
Were you able to make any observations regarding the demeanor of the defendant and his son?
His son, or Tristan, appeared to be fairly quiet and standing there kind of in shock from what I remember. I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to him, other than I think we worked at trying to get him away from what was going on. I don't know how successful we were, but then I started talking to Todd, and and he was pretty excited and pretty talkative. Not a whole lot of emotion, but
After Amy left in the ambulance, did the defendant go with her? Did he drive himself? Do you recall? Did he go with somebody?
he rode with a friend of the family, I believe.
And what happened to Tristan when the defendant left with somebody else?
Tristan was still there at the scene.
Did he just stay there, or did you
No.
see him? I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, he eventually left, and we followed him over to the farm where the incident took place.
Do you know who he left with?
It was a friend of the family. I believe it was Mike Krogman, if I'm not mistaken.
You indicated that you followed them back to the farm.
Yes.
What was the purpose of you following them back to the Mullis farm?
I wanted to be able to get an idea of what happened so I could relay the information to the hospital.
Did anybody go with you or follow you?
Deputy Holub.
Did you and Tristan and Deputy Holub all arrive at approximately the same time on the Mullis farm?
Yes.
And what did you do when you got there?
We asked Tristan where it happened, and he showed us a red shed that was, the sliding door was open a couple feet, and he showed us where he found his mom laying in it.
And once Tristan showed you this red shed and the basic layout and where he found his mother, what did you and Deputy Holub do?
We took pictures. Deputy Holub took pictures, and we just observed what was inside of the shed.
Was Tristan with you the whole time you were doing this?
No.
Where was he?
Shortly after he showed us and gave us an explanation of what he had found, he went into the house.
What did you do next?
I left shortly after that, got in my car, started heading towards the hospital. I called the ER, gave them the information that I had found out, how I believe she had gotten the injuries that she has. And after I talked with them, I called my boss, Sheriff John LeClaire. I advised him of what I was dealing with, and then I proceeded to go into the hospital.
And why did you go to the hospital versus the sheriff's department?
Because I knew that's where they'd taken Amy, and if they needed anything from me in there, I'd be available.
And what did you do when you got to the sheriff's department?
To the hospital?
I'm sorry, the hospital.
I basically stood out of the operating room where they had Amy until they had pronounced her deceased. And
Was the defendant there at the hospital as well?
yes,
Were you able to speak with him a little bit about what had happened at the farm there at the hospital?
yes.
What did he tell you there at the hospital?
I asked him who was at the farm that day, and what they were doing before they had found Amy.
Okay, and what did he tell you?
He told me that she had some kind of procedure a few days before that. They were all out in the hog building, working on cleaning up some things and taking care of this and that. And he thought that she didn't seem to be doing real well at whatever they were doing. I don't know if he thought she was tired or something to that effect. And he said, he asked her if she could go get a pet carrier out of the shed and bring it back so they could put some kittens in it so they didn't get ran over by a skid loader. And so he sent her off to the shed, and she never came back. He said approximately 20 to 40 minutes later, he walked out of the hog barn, noticed that the pet carrier wasn't there, so he sent Tristan looking for her or the pet carrier, and that was when Tristan went over to the shed, walked in, and found his mother laying there, hunched over with her arms underneath and a fork in her back.
All right. Was Tristan at the hospital as well?
Yes.
Did you ask the defendant if you could talk to Tristan?
Yes.
Did he allow it?
Yes.
Did he want to talk to Tristan alone first?
Yes.
About how long did he speak with Tristan before he allowed him to talk to you?
I would say a couple minutes.
And do you recall what you spoke to Tristan about?
I spoke to him about this, almost the same type of thing that I spoke to Todd about.
Other than the things we just talked about, was there anything else that you did involving this case?
Shortly after that, I did take Todd over to the sheriff's office with me, and Sheriff John LeClaire and I interviewed him about the incident and what had gone on.
At any time while you were talking to him, did he ever suggest to you that foul play was involved that day?
No.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Cross-examination.
Deputy Thompson, you indicated you got the call about 12:05.
Yes.
Do you recall what the weather conditions were like that day?
It was fairly cold.
Any precipitation?
I think there was maybe a light dusting of snow. I would say in like the shaded areas, but it wasn't everywhere.
Okay. When you arrived and met on the roadway there where Todd and Tristan were with Amy, when you helped Todd remove her from the pickup, what clothing did she have on?
I think she had a hooded jacket on and tan-colored pants, if I remember correctly.
From what you could visually see on her, about her, could you tell if she had a gunshot wound, a knife wound, or more than one wound?
I noticed a couple of what looked like small holes in her back where most of the blood was, but I did not know what it was from.
Were the holes in the clothing?
I don't know.
Well, I guess what I'm asking you is, was her clothing removed so that you could see actually the body itself?
I think that her shirt and her jacket had came up far enough that was how it was hanging, like it was pulled up fairly high on her, and that's how I could see the wounds. Her clothing was not completely off, no.
Okay. Out there in the field before she was put in the ambulance, was her clothing removed by emergency personnel?
I don't recall.
Okay. Deputy Thompson, just a few minutes ago, we listened to the 911 call that Todd made just before you came into contact with him. Have you ever listened to that?
Yes.
Okay. How would you describe Todd's emotional state during that period?
Excited.
Okay. And that's what he continued to be as you had your exchanges with him there at the scene?
Yes.
But you characterize that as not a lot of emotion.
Correct.
And how would you describe not a lot of emotion? I mean, what is that?
I guess he wasn't crying or anything like that.
In your 15 plus years of law enforcement, have you seen people react differently to horrific situations?
Yes.
They're not all the same.
Correct.
And when you got back to the farm, Tristan went back there with who you think was a family friend, Mike Krogman. About how long would you estimate Tristan was down there around this shed showing you and Holub what he had seen or found?
I'm not sure.
Okay. How would you describe his emotional state when he was doing that with you?
I would say he was fairly quiet and seemed scared to me.
But once he got you two situated and looking around, then he went in the house.
Yes.
Okay. Did you have any more contact with him until you again talked to him at the hospital?
No.
So the explanation that Todd gave you when you went back to the hospital and talked to him, you asked him what they were doing. He said they were in the barn doing some things. She had some issues, went to get a pet carrier for these kittens, and after some passage of time, Tristan went to look for it. Is that basically it?
It's close, yes.
Okay. Was that pet carrier in that shed?
Yes.
Can you describe about where it was at?
If you walked into the sliding door of the shed that was open approximately 2 foot or so, you would see there were a whole bunch of big chemical containers in front of you. So you would have to take a left, and you would walk along. You'd have the sliding door on your left and these chemical containers on your right. And then the pet carrier was down another aisle to your right, about halfway. It was about eye level up on top of looked like a metal, almost like a metal crate, like a live cage for an animal or something. It was setting on top of it.
Do you have any idea whether or not that pet carrier had been moved recently?
I do not.
Okay. That's all the questions I have. Thank you, Deputy.
Mr. Bernard, anything else for him?
Just briefly, Your Honor. Just briefly, Your Honor. When you were speaking with the defendant during your interviews, did he keep reiterating how dizzy or lightheaded Amy was?
I think he mentioned it a couple times.
And defendant's counsel mentioned on cross-examination the 911 tape we just listened to. In that tape, dispatch was told by the defendant, and very excitedly, that Amy fell on a corn fork. So when you were at the farm, would you have been looking for anyone else around the farm or any footprints or any evidence of anybody other than Mullis family members?
No.
Thank you. Nothing further.
No further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Another witness for the state?
State would call Eric Holub.
Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I will.
Go ahead and have a seat. State your name and spell it for the record, please.
Eric Holub, first name E-R-I-C, Holub, H-O-L-U-B.
Go ahead, counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Holub, you're clearly a deputy. Who do you work for?
I work for the Delaware County Sheriff's Office.
Would you briefly describe your education, training, background, and experience in law enforcement?
I got hired with the Delaware County Sheriff's Office April of 2004. I graduated from the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy at Hawkeye in the fall of 2004. And I also have a criminal justice degree from Mount Mercy.
What are your present duties with Delaware County?
I am a firearms instructor and I work patrol.
Do you recall whether or not you were on duty last year on November 10th?
Yes, I was.
Was anyone else with you that day?
I had a reserve deputy riding with me,
And who was that?
Mark Banghart.
Any particular reason you had a reserve with you?
Our reserves try to get out at least once a month.
And do you recall what shift you were working?
I was working 6 a.m. to 4 p.m.
At some point during your shift, did you receive the same dispatch that Luke Thompson received?
Yes, I did.
And did you respond?
Yes.
To where did you respond?
It was 170th Street, just east of Oneida.
Do you recall approximately how long it took for you to get there?
It was approximately 6 minutes.
And what did you see when you arrived?
I saw Deputy Thompson performing CPR on Amy Mullis. And Tristan, Amy's son, and Todd were standing next to Deputy Thompson.
What did you do to assist?
Mark went over, or Deputy Banghart, our reserve deputy, went over and assisted Luke with CPR, and I went over and talked with Todd Mullis.
And at some point, did some additional assistance arrive, EMTs, ambulance?
Yes, we had Greeley First Responders and Manchester Regional Medical Center ambulance showed up on scene.
And approximately how long before they arrived, after you arrived?
The ambulance crews?
Yes.
It wasn't too long after. Greeley showed up fairly soon after I showed up.
And what was your personal observation of Amy Mullis's condition when you were there at the scene?
It did not look good. Her skin was pale,
Was she responsive?
unresponsive.
Were you able to observe the defendant or his son while she was being worked on?
Yes, I did.
And what was their demeanor or emotional state?
I mostly talked with Todd at the scene. He was having a hard time staying focused, excited, and he wanted to call somebody so that they could go to his residence because he had 2 younger kids that were there at the time, unattended.
Was that his primary focus, the children at the residence as opposed to his wife there on the ground?
Yes, at that time, he wanted to call somebody.
And what happened to Mr. Mullis when the ambulance left? Did he go with the ambulance?
No.
Do you know where he went?
I believe a family friend gave him a ride to the regional medical center.
Tristan, do you know where he went?
He hopped in with a family friend and went back to their family farm.
And where did you go?
Deputy Thompson and I both followed that vehicle back to the Mullis residence
And what was the purpose of you following it back?
to determine what had happened to Amy Mullis.
And did you all arrive at about the same time?
Yes.
Right. And what did you do when you got there?
We followed Tristan into a red shed. It's located just southeast of their residence there.
And what were you wanting Tristan to show you there?
We wanted him to show us where he found his mother.
How long was he with you? Was he with you the whole time you were at the shed, or was he with you a short time?
He was there with us for a short time.
And after he left, what did you do?
We took photographs of what we found inside the shed.
And when Tristan left, do you know where he went?
He went back into their residence.
Did you speak with him again later?
Yes, I did.
And what did you speak with him about?
If he knew what happened to his mom.
What did he tell you?
Tristan stated that his mother was going out to get a dog carrier from the shed. And it had been a while. So he said that his father, Todd, asked him to go out to the shed to see what was taking so long.
And that's where he found his mother.
Yes.
Was that pretty much all you talked about when you were talking to Tristan in the home?
Yes.
You indicated you took some photographs, is that correct?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Deputy, I'm handing you what's been previously marked as State's Exhibits 3 through 22. I would ask you to take a look at those, please. Do you recognize State's Exhibits 3 through 22?
Yes.
What are State's Exhibits 3 through 22?
These are the photographs I took at the scene.
And who took those? I'm sorry, you took those photographs?
Yes.
And are those photographs a true and accurate representation of the places and items depicted in each of the photographs at the time the photos were taken back on November 10th of 2018?
Yes, they are.
Your Honor, at this time, I would offer State's Exhibits 3 through 22 into evidence.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
State's Exhibits 3 through 22 are all admitted.
And at this time, Your Honor, I would ask permission to publish and ask additional questions about each photo.
Yes, go ahead.
Deputy, if you would, I guess, watch the screen as opposed to the photos in front of you. We will cycle through 3 through 22, and I would just ask for each one, kind of tell us what is depicted there. And so we'll start with number 3. You took that photo. What is it?
That's the entrance to the shed. That would be the east side.
When you say the shed that Amy Mullis was found in by Tristan.
Correct.
There appears to be a little bit of snow on the ground. Is that correct?
Yes.
What time of year was it?
November 10th.
All right. Next picture, please. Exhibit number 4 is of what?
That's the corn rake that we found inside the shed.
Apparently not the full corn rake, but the tines. Any particular reason you just took a photo of the tines?
I took a picture of this when I was back at the booking room because the lighting was better, and you could clearly see how far in Amy the prongs went.
Next photo, please. Exhibit 5. Where was this taken, and what does it show?
That was taken inside the shed. It shows the exact location where we found the corn rake at.
And there's something that looks almost like a ruler next to it.
Yes,
Who put that there?
I did.
And what's that for?
It's for size comparison.
The corn rake also appears to have a broken handle. Was it like that when you found it?
Yes.
Anything else in that photograph that was of interest?
Just that the corn rake was there meeting at the intersection of the narrow aisle walkway and the center aisle.
Exhibit 6 shows what?
Be 2 drops of blood on the concrete.
All right. Those look like they might be difficult to see. Are you able to indicate on that ruler or ruling device approximately where they are on there?
It looks like the 4. Do you mind if I look here? It's kind of hard to see on the...
Go ahead.
Yeah, on here it's the 1 and the 4.
All right. And the towel, was there any significance with the towel?
No, not with that one.
It just happened to be there.
It just happened to be on the ground, yes.
All right. Next photo, please. That looks to be similar. Is it the same picture, just taken twice, or is there something significant about this one?
Same, I might have just gone a little bit closer, I guess.
Okay. Next, please. Exhibit 8.
That was another towel that we found on the ground.
It was just the towel, or is there anything else
There,
around?
by number 9 there is a drop of blood there.
All right. Next. Exhibit number 9 appears to be another photo of the corn rake. Why did you take this one?
Just for a different angle than the previous.
When you were talking about where these passages meet, can you describe that a little bit based on that photograph?
There's some chemical totes that have metal framework that give them some structure, and they were stacked up upon one another. Kind of formed a wall when you first walked into the shed. And what you're looking at there where I was standing taking this photograph, it's a narrow aisle because the totes were right next to me to the right. And then that led down to a center aisle in the shed.
Next photo, please. Number 10.
A close-up picture of the corn rake.
Number 11, please.
It's just another picture, a little bit different angle.
Same thing.
Yes.
Next. What's the purpose of Exhibit 13? What are you trying to show there?
The distance between each prong, there's 4 of them on the corn rake.
Is it easier to see in the physical photograph that will go back with the jury, the prongs there?
Yes, this is fairly dark.
Same thing?
Yes, just another picture of the same.
What is that?
That is the dog carrier that Tristan he had discussed inside the home.
And how do you know that is the dog carrier?
It was the only one that I noticed in the shed.
Did Tristan point it out to you, or is it just the only one you noticed?
It was the only one I noticed.
Okay. Photo, please. What is Exhibit 16 showing?
Just a side angle of the same dog carrier.
Did you pull that out, or was it already out?
It was exactly as it is.
On each side of it, there appears to be something yellow. What is that?
I'm not a farmer. I think it's a farm implement item.
And below, there appear to be maybe augers of some kind.
Yes.
Were those there when you took the picture?
Yes.
How much space is there between the auger on the left and whatever is out of the frame to the left?
There's not really that much more room to the left. That's where, again, there's kind of a wall of these chemical totes.
On each side?
To the left, yes.
So behind this pet carrier, are there any tools hanging?
Not that I noticed.
Exhibit 17, what's being shown there?
This is located on the driveway of the residence that we first pulled up to, and that would be blood from Amy Mullis, where CPR was performed.
Okay. Next exhibit, please. What's this one show?
That's the exact same thing, except I put that ruler there for scale.
All right, next photo, please. Number 19.
This is another picture of the entrance into the shed.
So how much of an opening do you have right there, Deputy?
It's not very wide. I think the door was stuck. We tried to push on it, but it seemed like that's where it wanted to remain.
Okay. Number 20, please. Just another angle of the pet carrier?
Yes.
21. What's this show?
This shows as soon as you walk in through the entryway to the shed, this is that narrow aisle I was discussing earlier.
And the towels that were previously depicted in other photographs?
Yes, as well as you can see the corn rake there at the end.
All right. And number 22.
It's another picture of the same towel with the 2 drops of blood on the concrete.
Is that all the photographs you took at the Mullis residence?
No. Well, yes, that is.
So after you took the photographs, did you collect anything?
Yes.
What did you collect?
I collected the corn rake, the towel that had the drop of blood on it, and also the trousers that were worn by Tristan.
Where did you go after the farm?
I drove immediately from there to the regional medical center
And why did you go to the regional medical center?
to check on the condition of Amy Mullis.
And when you arrived at the hospital, were there some concerns about how the injuries to Amy Mullis occurred?
Yes.
And where did this concern about how the injuries occurred come from?
Dr. Thompson was concerned that there was too many holes on her back.
Who is Dr. Thompson?
He works as a doctor for the regional medical center in their ER.
Did he ask you for anything?
Yes, he wanted me to take a picture of the corn rake to see how wide it was.
And what did you tell him?
I took a picture of it and showed it to him. And then Dr. Thompson wanted to see it in person.
And did you have it with you?
Yes.
And did you produce it?
Yes, I did.
What was done with it?
I drove my squad car into their ambulance, Sallyport, and I took it out of my squad car, and Dr. Thompson reviewed it there.
And after you were finished with it at the hospital, did you tag it and secure it as evidence?
Yes.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes.
Deputy, I'm handing you a bag. This bag will contain what will soon be marked as exhibit number 23. I would ask you to examine that bag for a moment. Do you recognize it?
Yes.
What is it?
It's the bag signed by the state medical examiner.
Do you know what it contains?
It contains the corn rake that we retrieved from the shed.
How do you know that?
It has a broken handle, and it's tagged.
If you would, please, Deputy, please carefully open that bag and remove the contents.
Can I step down here to
Sure.
a little bit more room? You want me to take it out?
Please take it out of the bag. If you would have a seat back up in the witness stand. Deputy, have you seen that item before today?
Yes.
And where have you seen that item before today?
This was the corn rake we retrieved from the shed at the Mullis farm.
How do you know that is the same corn rake you retrieved from the shed at the Mullis farm?
It's tagged and it has a broken handle.
And since the time you collected it, and other than for its use at the state medical examiner's office, has this corn rake remained in evidence at the Delaware County Sheriff's Department until this very moment?
Yes, it has.
Does the corn rake appear to be in the same condition as it is when you first collected it back on November 10th of 2018?
Yes, it does.
Your Honor, at this time, I would offer State's Exhibit number 23 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
23 is admitted.
Permission to publish, Your Honor?
You can display it.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Now, Deputy, based on your experience and years in law enforcement, would a person be able to inflict death or serious injury on another person with that corn rake if they chose to do so?
Yes, they would.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Cross-examination.
Deputy Holub. Deputy Holub, did you know Todd Mullis prior to this day?
I may have met him before, but I don't know him personally, no.
You weren't familiar enough to know what his personality was like, whether he was quiet or bubbly or that kind of thing?
No, I don't know him that well.
The county attorney asked you about his demeanor, the way he was acting. You said he acted kind of excited and hard time staying focused. Is that correct?
Yes.
In your years of experience, you've, I'm sure, encountered people who are dealing with a rather traumatic event.
Yes.
Car accidents, fires, all kinds of things.
Yes.
Do people always react the same way?
No.
Have you seen people react to a horrible situation in what some people might consider an inappropriate way? Laughing at the wrong time?
I haven't seen laughing at something that's tragic, no.
Todd wasn't laughing that day.
No.
But he wanted someone to take care of his kids.
Correct.
About what time of the afternoon do you think you got back to the Mullis farm with Deputy Thompson and eventually Tristan to look in the shed?
We pulled into the drive there at about 12:31 p.m.
I think one of your later responses to a later exhibit may have answered my question, but in exhibit number 6 was the one with 2 drops of blood on the concrete, and you had the ruler there, and you said that blood drops were about at inch number 1 and inch number 4.
Yes.
Later on, I think it's number 22. Is that the same towel?
Yes.
So 22 shows where in the shed the towel was located, right?
Yes.
Pardon me. And please look at 21 also. Once again, is that the towel?
Yes.
And actually, there's two things there, a towel and a rag.
Yes.
In number 21, to the left would be you can see a crack, that would be that sliding door that you couldn't move.
To the left there with the door, yes.
And is the alleyway down to the pet carrier beyond that second rag?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Do you have an estimate as to what time you would have got back to the hospital after being at the Mullis farm?
It took me about 16 minutes to get there.
And I think you also mentioned that you had taken not only the corn fork, number 23, but also you said Tristan's trousers?
Yes.
Okay. Why did you take those?
I wanted to present that to the hospital. Maybe they could figure out how much blood loss there was.
But soon after you returned to the hospital, based on Dr. Thompson's observations and comments, there was a concern about how Amy Mullis had gotten these injuries.
Yes.
Would you say at that time things shifted from investigating a farm accident to perhaps foul play?
Yes.
And at that time you bagged the corn rake and put it back in your car to keep in evidence?
It was driven right back from the hospital to our evidence room, yes.
Was it bagged from the farm to the hospital?
No.
Okay. Was there any discussion between that either involved you or others that you're aware of about returning to the farm to do further investigation now that there was a suspicion of foul play?
Can you say that one more time?
After you went back with the corn fork to the hospital and Dr. Thompson looked at it, you kept it in evidence.
Yes.
Was there any discussion that you were involved in, or are you aware of anybody else's discussion about returning to the farm to do further investigation now that foul play may be suspected?
I went back, I should say that our sheriff and Deputy Thompson did an interview with Todd at our sheriff's office. And after they had convened, the sheriff said that he had given them permission that I could go back and take a couple more pictures at the shed there.
On the return trip, did you take more photos?
Yes.
Were they included in what we've seen so far?
Yes.
Did you do that on your own?
Yes.
Was there any other investigation made around the shed by you or other law enforcement?
There would have been by other law enforcement after I took those pictures.
Do you know when?
I'm not sure.
And by whom?
Travis Hemisath.
Okay. But you don't think Hemisath went out there that day that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. At the hospital, did you see Tristan return?
To the hospital?
Yes.
I don't recall seeing him there.
Was there any photographs taken, other than the front door of the shed that we've seen? Were there any other photographs taken on the outside of the building?
None that I had taken.
And no visual exam, a walk around or anything like that?
I did not do that, no.
Do you know if Deputy Thompson would have done that?
I'm not sure if
Okay.
he did or not.
Thank you, Deputy. That's all I have.
Okay.
Any redirect?
Just briefly, Deputy, with any of your conversations that you had with the defendant, did he ever mention the possibility that anybody else would have killed his wife?
No.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Okay, thank you, sir. Your